Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Upsurge Premier League. We are here in week 3 with the game between Supernova and Issue is Critical. I am Joe Helmicella, joined here today, of course, by Rebel Fox. And I think this one is going to be pretty exciting today, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, these are two really high caliber teams. They're actually competing for second place in Mountain Division. So the winner of this will get pure control of that second place and get them at least a little closer to that playoff spot.
Yeah, going to be really important. Now, Supernova, obviously coming off the loss last week to Snowman Slammers, but the Issues Critical did lose to them in week 1 too. So these teams kind of playing each other to find out who actually is the best between the two, given that they both lost to the same team. Now, um, going to be interesting to see how this actually is going to shape up.
That it will. Both teams they sport a ton of talent between the two of them. A lot of names that people know and understand. I know Issue is Critical. They've got like Dragoon. They have Meech. Command Attack. They've got Hyper. I didn't even know Hyper was on this team until just recently, so that's pretty cool. On the opposite side, you got a lot of guys: Pie Cake Lord, Odd Orange, Strumpus, guys that have been in that Academy League. And so all of these names will come back in Amateur League of Legends, and a lot of them are just well known in their own right.
Yeah, so going to be a lot of talent. Going to be a very exciting game. Hopefully, looking forward to how this is going to shape up. And really, are we thinking this is going to go the distance between these two teams here, or are we expecting one team has an edge?
That's a tough one to say. I do favor Supernova slightly. I think that they have a lot more backing to their team and a lot of super good players. I do know Odd Orange is a substitute jungler, so that might throw them for a little bit of a loop. But to me, the way that they looked against Snowman Slammers the other week, I went back, watched a little bit of it, and it seemed like they had a little more control over the play than Issue is Critical would have in that first week.
Yeah, so Supernova maybe with a slight edge here. So, but both these teams obviously they've seen each other. They've seen each other play 2 weeks in a row now. They've had the opportunity to study each other and maybe get the better of each other's tactics. So, looking forward to seeing how they're going to adjust. And like you said before, too, we do have the substitute jungler here for Supernova. So maybe a point of attention, maybe a point that Issues Critical can exploit as we go into it.
That is. Actually, there's a lot of overlap between the pools of Hyper and Odd Orange. So in games like that, either A, there's going to be a lot of focus towards that jungle pool in the banning phase, which means you got to go further down and you get into the more of the pocket or specific picks that the junglers like to take. Or there's no focus, no bans come through, and you're getting very generic, like you'll see like Lee Sin, Olaf, Elise the whole time. There'll be basically two of those the entire transaction here.
Yeah, would not be surprised to see that. I think that's pretty much how these games have mostly been shaping up, with just the sort of safe jungle picks being on the table and sort of not opting to try and ban out any one player or another. So, where do we think the draft strategy is going to fall then for these two teams, Supernova versus Issues Critical?
Like I said, any team that's got Hyper on it, I have to think that there's going to be a lot of jungle focus. He is an intensely talented player. I love to watch him get, especially on those playmakers like that Lee Sin, and being able to let him loose on the map, not only hunting for the other jungler, but trying to make plays for his team. On the opposite side, to me, I mean, you don't really have a weak lane, all things said and done. Pie Cake Lord likes to play really aggressive picks in the top side. What I would like to see is something control for Strompist in the middle lane to work with his jungler in that Odd Orange, who is that substitute this week, and try to play more towards the side lanes. Play top, play bottom, where you've got Jurassic Chime, another really strong pairing.
Yeah, definitely could see the focus. Like you said, Jurassic Chime, love to see these guys play. Very, very good duo. So definitely could be the option for them to try and have that focus down the bottom side of the map instead of trying to play up in the top side. Pykic Lord versus Dragoon, though, there is some opportunities for these teams to get one of their top laners pop off, especially when you look at the kind of top lane pool and the playmaking champions you've got there.
Yeah, I mean, you've got things like Set currently up there. I've seen Aatrox Mord in both their pools. I've seen Silas potentially as a pickup we could see. That's more of a Dragoon pick than anything, but there's some specialty that can come out from that one. So I'm really interested to see how this draft starts to kick off, because I do think we're in for some treats here in at least the first round.
Yeah, and speaking of draft, we are actually going to be jumping right into the champion pick ban here. Looking to maybe see some of that jungle pressure, like you said, banning out Hyper in this first phase and see if you can't get him on something he's maybe slightly less comfortable with. That is going to be Supernova's first ban here, taking away the Lee Sin, and Critical is going to be taking away the Cassiopeia.
Yeah, Strump is super good at that. I'm not sure if it's flexible for Pancake Lord in the top lane as well. I know it's just a solo and paying strength in all rights, but I know Strumpus is a rather good Cassiopeia player in his own right. Wow, just zooming through these bans.
Yeah, going quite quickly here. The Aphelios and the Jarvan the Fourth now. So again, targeting the jungle pool, and Aphelios taken off the table. Very, very strong pick, especially in the bottom lane. So Does make sense that that's going to be the ban, but there's definitely going to be a lot of power picks coming through here. Have to see if the Kiana or the Set slip through, as we have the 2 last bans. Supernova sitting on this one, thinking it through, but they're going to take out the Yumi.
Not willing to let one through. It seems to have risen in priority, especially as 10.3 has really come to the bare end. Even in professional play, we're starting to see Yumi pop up as this. It's one of the very few enchanters you can throw into the bot lane. It must be that Supernova just does not want to see it, or they have a better priority pick here that's going to come early for the support role.
Exactly. That is going to be the Camille finish off here for Issue is Critical, rounding out our first bans. Supernova now on the pick. Like we were saying before, lots of options available for them. And that is looking like the Set top lane here. Could just lock that in, and they will just blind pick that straight off the bat. Very, very strong champion. Can't leave that available.
Absolutely. Super good for Cake Lord. Allows him for some of that team fighting. Earlier lane in the dominance. Again, it's something that he likes to do up there in the top side of the map, so not shocking to see that one come through. I'm curious whether now a Misfortune priority will come through here. Ornn is a really good pick as well. You can flex it. They're going to go right into top and, or my bad, solo lane, and then into the Olaf as well to get priority for Hyper on that chain.
Yeah, it does make sense. Grab that early jungler, give Hyper his pick of whichever champion he wants down there. And the Ornn as well. You already know it's going to be the Set in the top lane. Ornn, very strong. Should be able to survive that here. But Supernova now swapping back over. Probably expecting a jungle pick. Elise is available if they do want to go for that. But they do have some other options on the table as they do know what Hyper is going to be playing.
And there is that Misfortune priority. I would assume this would also be the support because they should still have enough junglers on the board unless they really have something that their eyes on. As you said, the Elise, maybe even the Rek'Sai, something that could come out to challenge the Olaf or gank alongside it.
Yeah, so there is the possibility there. As it's been pointed out as well, Set could go jungle here too. If they want to flex it around, that is a possibility if they really, really get targeted in the ban phase by Issues Critical here. But locking them Misfortune does make sense. And Karthus actually going to be the last pick here for Supernova.
Yeah, I know the timer was running down. I assume that that's a lock-in. Otherwise, we would have heard something else. But yeah, that's an interesting one. Now, again, we don't really see solo lane Karthus, so I would expect that to go into the jungle position, which confirms Set. Yeah, I want to see really quickly if that's correct. Yeah, they're just making sure that would be the case. Soraka, the hover right now for the side of Issue is Critical. And again, that's Soraka not expected to be in that bot lane, usually expected to be one of the solo laners as of late. Although it could go bot lane too. We see it pretty much anywhere that you can put it because it's just such a strong champion.
Yeah, it does make sense. So lots of flexibility for both these rosters now. The Soraka is locked in, and a good counterpick to the Karthus as well, always popping the Wish as soon as he goes for the Requiem. And we're into the second ban phase now. Issue is Critical. We'll have the first pick out of this, and would expect some mid lane targeting here, maybe from both teams, trying to limit the champion pools of Strampus and Command's attack.
Yeah, not to mention, I mean, even with the Soraka off the board, I would still say supports are pretty high priority. We've only seen the Yumi gone, and there are plenty of picks that can still come through from both sides. I mean, you've got things like Braum, if you want to be protected. You got Leona, Nautilus still available as well as options. I know, Braum can be blind pick. Morgana is something that's really popular for IRC, or IIC, my apologies, and that's now taken off. Thresh is another thing that you potentially see banned out here. See if any more of that comes through.
Yeah, we do have the Morgana banned out, so these sort of hook aggressive champions are sort of enabled to make these plays now. So Issue is Critical, kind of thinking on this last ban here, if you maybe want to remove one of those aggressive hook champions now that Morgana isn't an option for you, they're just going to take the Braum. No safety here at all in the bottom lane. It's going to be champions probably going into each other. Would not be surprised to see the Nautilus picked up here now that the Braum and the Morgana are both off the table. Can always flex that Soraka as well, but that does leave them in a bit of an odd situation as far as their solo lanes are concerned. Xayah, the last ban here for Supernova.
Yeah. So what's interesting is, again, with that Soraka's flexibility between top and mid lane, potentially alongside the Ornn, they could have gone Rakan Xayah in their final rotation, and they could have split it on the side of Supernova. It looks like they don't want to do that to give that away because they don't want to pick the Xayah for themselves. So they're going to opt to ban that one and get rid of that potential combination.
Yeah, of course, ban does make sense. The Senna will be picked here for Issue is Critical. Another strong pick that's kind of filtered through to the back half of the draft. Not necessarily the first thing you want, but still going to be picked up. Very nice. And Supernova now having to pick their last two picks here. What are we thinking?
For the bottom lane, I think Thresh is something that could work very, very well. In my opinion right now, if Soraka has the silencing field on Karthus, Karthus needs to reposition very quickly, otherwise his DPS drops dramatically. And so a Thresh Lantern is a great way to reposition the immobile Karthus or the Misfortune for the bullet time when the time comes. I'd like to see that at the support role. If that does come through, we see the Aurelia locked in as well, so I assume that's mid lane Aurelia and then jungle Karthus, of course.
That would make a lot of sense. Aurelia, strong pick, especially you have a bunch of sort of immobile champions on the backline here with the Soraka and the Senna, so would make sense to see that try to go for the dive here. And the Thresh, like you're talking about, that is going to be locked in for that repositioning on the immobile carries.
Yeah. Now, the one thing is Misfortune and Thresh have a decent laning phase into Senna. I'm curious if they go something defensive like Tom Kench here as a potential look. They could still technically go Rakan if they want, or they flex that Soraka into the bot lane. Orky the hover.
Yeah, really odd hover here. We'll have to see where Issues Critical decides to shuffle everything around. If that is locked in, definitely going to see Hyper on the Olaf in the jungle here, but lots of flex. But no, the Nautilus is going to be swapped to at the last second, so likely to see the Soraka in the solo lane with the Senna Nautilus down bot. Really, really solid drafts, I think, here from both of these teams.
Yeah. Pretty interesting. Yeah, a lot of power picks have come out. To me, Supernova also went very heavy. The Karthus isn't something that we see very often. That must be an odd orange preference pick, something they wanted to get him on just for the comfort outright. Something that power farms really well alongside the Olaf, and as long as they keep it safe from Olaf's invades, any sort of fighting in the earlier stages of the game, should feel perfectly fine as the game continues through.
Yeah, going to be a really safe pick there in the jungle. Definitely one that can sort of go up against it, like you said, as long as you're keeping the vision available. And Supernova also were able to secure themselves a set, which very, very strong pick. Surprised to see that it got through. Issues Critical had the last ban. They opted for the Camille instead. So Pycake Lord might be the option to try and camp that lane, get him ahead, because that champion can be very, very silly if he gets going.
That it can. And also the other thing is, like, with an Aurelia on your team, you don't have a ton of direct frontline outside of just the set engage. So getting him ahead early on, especially if you take something like the Aftershock, can mean that he is really just the forward go button for the team. It's nothing like Malphite, but it can be a serviceable substitute, especially for a team that has a Senna, a Soraka, an Ornn, champions with relative low mobility that you can absolutely get onto in the right situation. You can also drag champions like Ornn, like Nautilus out if they were to walk too far up and throw them back into their own team.
Yeah, do have the option to go for that, but if you look at Issues Critical's composition here, it's a lot of go in as well. You have the Ornn Horn, you've got the Olaf just trying to run you down, the Nautilus trying to set up the engage. So Supernova, it may be the option here for them to just try and catch the Issues Critical engage using their own tools, the Thresh box to try and slow things down, the Karthus getting through the damage, and then once the team fight's been initiated, sort of kite backwards, use the set to peel off and sort of deal damage on the backside.
Yeah, that would be an adequate way to go about it. My one fear in that particular sense is Hyper on the Olaf does a ridiculous amount of damage, and you don't have a Yuumi behind him, but a Senna has more than enough healing to support an Olaf, especially alongside a Soraka. You have a ton of long-range engage from the Ornn, and then the Nautilus also has plenty of that with the hook and the ultimate to support him as well. So this could honestly just be a superpower the Olaf game and let him be the Hyper carry in this one. Ironically, because it's Hyper in the jungle too. Sorry.
Yeah. The hyper playing the hyper carry, of course. So we'll have to see how that's going to work out. We have a couple of difficulties here on the champ select, so bear with us for just a moment. We will be hopping right back into that shortly. So turns out, yeah. All right, we are actually going to go ahead and hop over to an ad read while the teams figure out what's going on here in Champion Select. Hang on tight. We'll be right back after this word from our sponsor, Sector 6.
Started with a vision of quality, a vision of uniformity. We took the time to create something familiar yet refreshing, something with a bit of change.
Designed to fit any brand's unique vision.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are here on the Rift for Game 1 of Supernova versus Issue is Critical. Over on the blue side, of course, we do have Supernova, Pike Lord up in the top lane, the Odd Orange in the jungle, Strumpist in mid lane, Jurassic at AD carry, and Chime as the support.
And on the red side, we do have Issue is Critical. We have Dragoon in the top lane, Hyper in the jungle, Command Attack in the mid lane, Meech in the ADC role, and of course, Ugan and Royalty in that support role.
Yeah, now did want to give you guys a quick update. Was a very long delay. As it turns out, Command Attack did not actually own Soraka, so we had to drop out of the lobby, let him pick that champion up, and now we are back in game. We do apologize for the long delay, but we're here now, and hopefully looking forward to a good match between these two teams.
Yeah, just a pure 5-point to start things off. Nothing too worrisome, nothing crazy to talk about. I do want to make mention really quick, a keystone coming through from Strompist here. Typically, you will see the Conqueror on Aurelia. The reason why Press the Attack is, I think, even preferable in this game is because Conqueror is really good in extended fights due to the fact that it stacks your AD, gives you a little bit of sustain, things of that sort. And when you stack it as Aurelia, it's actually pretty easy to because you have plenty of abilities to use. But in this game, you don't want that. You don't want extended fights because you've got a ton of healing coming through from Soraka, sustain from the Olaf, and then also coming through from the Senna. And so if a fight is over quickly, that's much better because none of that sustain can come through. And that's what the idea of the Press the Attack is for.
Early invasion here is going to force a flash out of Hyper immediately. Strumpus, though, is going to burn his own flash back, trying to get out of range there. So flash for flash trade, nothing else going on there, but aggressive from Issue is Critical.
Yeah, I do very much like the fact that the counter invade there in that bottom side rush. They baited Hyper into thinking that they had backed off completely, but instead they were able to actually get basically a free leash for their jungler. They traded flash for flash, Hyper for Strumpist. Strumpist not in the most threat in the world because he's up into that Soraka lane, so doesn't have to worry about being solo killed. That's a pretty decent takeaway. Also stalls Hyper a little longer than he probably wanted to be.
Yeah, gonna take him a lot longer. Has to path all the way up there towards the red buff instead. And that was actually the lane swap here. We do have Dragoon down there in the mid lane instead. Command Attack up on the top to deal with the set. So already making a few adjustments here as the blue side invasion is going to happen. Odd Orange and Switology. The hook's actually going to miss. He's going to drag himself into a bad situation here. Takes the hook, but he's very, very tanky. Nautilus hasn't gone quite yet. He's going to burn the flash, but that is going to be first blood picked up from Jurassic. Now he's on the wrong side of the map. He does have the flash available, but there's nowhere for him to go. Finally does burn that. Narax is trying to get the damage down. Odd Orange now flashes away. The stun is going to miss from Strumpus, but the flash is used. Hyper almost goes down to that double up, but he will survive. Supernova fight back with an invasion of their own, and they pick up first blood for it.
Yeah, very, very close there between the two of them being able to trade back and forth. Of course, really unfortunate in that bottom lane. Ugandan Royalty throws the hook out, hits the wall, and pulls himself in the middle of the entire squad of Supernova on that bottom side. Not able to get that blue buff away, I don't think, in the end for Odd Orange, but thankfully they were able to get that kill. Also, the level 2 coming through for Misfortune a little faster meant that there were no additional abilities for the Nautilus or the Senna to throw in. Otherwise, it could have been very, very precarious to stick around in that area.
Yeah, risky. Well played from both teams, but at the end of the day, it's just going to be junglers picking up their buffs. Hyper a little bit ahead of Odd Orange at the moment here, but nothing too much to worry about, as we do have the first few recalls coming through. Doran stacking here on Jurassic just to make sure he gets the sustain coming down, and already the Executioner's calling on Strumpus to deal with that Soraka sustain.
Yeah, interesting. So we actually see a Spectral Stick right now, and it's on Meech. It's not on Swidology. Well, Swidology does have that Doran shield. So they're playing a little bit more of a supportive Senna style in this bottom lane, where she's taking some of the farm and Nautilus is taking most of it. I assume they're doing kind of like the Soda strat, where you used to do, you take what farm you can get, poke away, try to stack your support item, then you're able to get more optimization later on when the farm can come back through once you're finished with that support item.
Yeah, it does make sense. Definitely an option you can go with on that character and try to funnel onto the Nautilus instead, which maybe isn't as good as the funnel champion as the Sona might be, but still going to make it work.
Yeah, so I want to talk about that gold. I think we have a little bit of time here before any sort of fight might break out. The map seems to be pretty quiet. So the idea is there's actually a really, really hard to accomplish, but you can actually get slightly more gold per second if you're able to use the Spectral Stick, getting harassed down onto certain members, and of course taking specific farm. And why it's really important that they're doing this with the Senna is that there's a stacking mechanism with Senna, of course, giving her those passive stacks that give her AD, give her crit in the end. what happens is you get more of those stacks while also getting slightly more gold. Of course, it doesn't look like it because she doesn't have that farm, but you're actually getting more statistical optimization here by getting more stacks and technically a little more gold. It's really difficult. I doubt they're going to fully optimize it, but the gold's going to be at least comparable to what you would normally see if it's done properly. So this is super, super advanced play, or at least advanced thought behind what's happening in this bot lane right now.
Yeah, so Issues Critical, they have the plan, they have the idea for the bottom lane in order to try and get that stacking down, but we'll have to see how that ends up playing out at the end of the day. The lane swap actually did happen back. Don't know if we talked about that quite yet. Command Attack is going to go back down towards the mid lane here to deal with the Aurelia Dragoon back towards the top side. So
Yeah,
playing the lane as we expected it to go, at least.
Yeah, we started off with that kind of weird lane assignment, then we've just transferred back to what it is now. I don't know which is preferable for either of these champions. In my mind, it's actually better to have the Set versus Soraka matchup because I feel like Ornn can duel the Aurelia a little better than the Soraka would be able to. Of course, you have less of an ability to be ganked if you're the Soraka, so maybe they want the protection from the ganks as part of it as well.
Yeah, there was actually the attempt of the Drake here. The Thresh Lantern is going to get him out of the way, and both teams trying to set up for it. Hook is going to land here on the Nautilus Methodology. Gets flayed in. He hasn't gone down quite yet. The Wish comes through. He keeps him alive for a little bit longer, but Chime is going to take that one. The Drake, though, is going to fall on the backside. Hyper does pick that one up. Strop is looking for the fight. Lawless Duet is going to stun up Hyper. Nowhere else for him to really go. He does have the Grievous Wounds if they want to try and pick a fight, but opt to back away at the end of the day. So Dragon traded in exchange for one kill. That's going to give the power sort of over time to Issues Critical in exchange for a little bit. As the flash actually comes through, Chime misses the predicted hook, and that is going to be Meech walking away with his life.
Yeah, pretty unfortunate. I could look at that one. Of course, that first kill was pretty nice onto Swidology, able to get that one there. Again, I think it was just priority in the lane was going the way more so of Supernova in this particular case. And so when Swidology tried to go over and support the Dragon, or at least try to pull attention away from that Drake pit, he was just punished by Chime. Really nice hook from Chime, going to be able to get his ADC another one of those kills. Oh, actually, he picked that one up for himself, so thankfully going to be able to get that in the bot lane. But of course, that Dragon does go over. Hyper's still farming really, really effectively. Might be working towards that Dragon. So of course, this composition, it takes a while to get going now because, again, you're basically now trying to superpower an Olaf, and you're trying to get a very efficient gold value Senna on your team. So don't expect them to take too many fights earlier on, even with this Olaf pick.
Yeah, going to take a while for the farming to come through. Do have a pretty good team composition to set up for that. The very supportive bottom lane, very safe bottom lane. The Soraka Wish to keep everyone alive if you do try to make a play happen. So not a bad game plan here from Issue is Critical. They do need to slow the game down, though, as they've given up a couple kills already. The bot lane, 2-0-2 on if combined score here. So looking to be a very strong power point for Supernova.
Able to get a couple of those early solo kills. And again, keeping them ahead of their lane opponents. Again, this strategy works very, very well if you're even in farm, able to work everything optimally. But of course, if you're getting killed over and over, you're losing some of that lane pressure. It's a lot harder to manage. And again, you'd also want to be able to ramp some of this pressure. So Chime looks to want to get out on the map and try to help out some of these fights because, of course, again, if Soraka's sitting mid lane, if Thresh gets a good hook, you basically kill mid lane with this Aurelia. You have plenty to work with. The only one who really doesn't want to fight right now is Odd Orange. He has plenty of space to work with, again, because it's a super defensive comp from the side of Issue is Critical.
Yeah, and he's also had plenty of support from the rest of Supernova. Everyone roaming up, making sure he's able to get those Scuttle Crabs in particular. So important for the junglers to be able to handle. And Karthus is going to be, I think, the late game answer for Issues Critical's team if they're able to get him on that farm. Is sitting on level 6 and the Requiem now. Command Attack, though. Wish coming up very shortly. And actually, the Ornn now swapped to the bottom side. Issues Critical with a lane swap.
They go crazy about this. This is the 9-minute mark, so this is about the time when the Rift Herald will come up. And so they do this to try to get priority on this lane before they do anything. The thing is that Chime and Jurassic are already on the interior getting this pressure for that. So instead of actually walking directly up lane and trying to push back the wave, they walk directly to lane through that river, and they're able to get wards down and get all that pressure that should have come through when the rotation came faster from the combination of Meech and Ugandan Royalty.
Yeah, so playing a little bit better here as the Herald does spawn up. The Vision's going to be swept out a little bit here. You can see all those Vision wards, or Control wards rather, coming through, trying to clean out some of it. The rotations come through, and Pykic Lord all the way down on the bottom side of the map. He does have teleport available, but Ornn walking up right now. Issues Critical are going to have the inside track on this Herald.
Yeah, it's shocking that they're able to get this so easily. Again, Karthus does have a tough time getting into these fights. Hasn't even finished the Runic Echoes yet, so his power is not felt. Really, it's just the MF right now. Aurelia had taken it back. Yeah, they're pretty much going to get this up. And for a defensive composition that doesn't really want to fight, thankfully, no aggressive jungler means that they're going to be able to do that. Of course,
oh,
nice hook.
Great hook from Sweetology. He's going to pull Jurassic out of the Lancer, and he's in a bad spot now, trying to run away. Gets slowed down by the Undertow. Should be going down. Pops the heal. Still on the run. Meech is there, and Hyper as well. There should be one. Undertow finally burns the flash. The hook is going to pull back Chime. This is going to be the bullet time on the backside, trying to break up the fight, as here comes Requiem. Pie Cake Lord has shown up. He goes for the pile driver. He gets the damage down. Strompus is going to be there, taking the first kill of the fight here. And now the flay back through on the 2 into the Vanguard's edge. Strompus now on the killing spree here. He's going to try and take down Naraxis, who's going to be able to walk safely back under tower. Axe from Hyper will break up the fight, but Supernova picking up on the backside here. 2 kills for nothing.
An issue is critical. They get, like, they just smell blood in the water, and that Jurassic gets hooked, but they don't actually have a ton of damage with the Senna this early on in the game. Actually only has the double longsword with the tier to be able to do any damage with whatsoever. So they get half of his health bar, but then there's no escape. Like, they're easily walking out of that situation afterwards. So once you get that small chip damage onto the MF, you can push them off of top tower. Instead, they overextend, end up getting TP'd on by Pie Cake Lord, my apologies, and that fight goes drastically in their favor. Again, this is a defensive composition. They don't want to push that far for a lot of this, and I like the idea of trying to get that pick, trying to get the center a little faster into that scaled mode, but unfortunately, you just can't push that far. I don't expect them to continue making that mistake.
They'll have to try and play a little bit slower now, as the teams are going to rotate down, but this is going to be Supernova showing up first to the play in order to get the vision on the Drake. Chime is going to try and go for Sweetology. A good hook is going to land. It's a very tanky Nautilus, but he should go down. Stopwatch is going to be popped to stall for a little bit more time. Strompus is going to take that one through the Dawning Shadow, and now fight looking like they might want to try and take a Strompus. Zoning out Meech on the backside will get rooted. A little bit split here for Supernova, getting pulled in both directions. Stun is actually going to land. It's going to be Meech forced to flash away, burning down from the Ignite. Herald actually, though, summoned in the mid lane to try and stall for a little bit more time here. Supernova will secure the Drake. They'll run immediately mid lane. This still might be first tower, though. Hyper trying to take this one down as the rest of the team rotates. No, forced to run away, so neither of these teams, sorry, actually, issues critical, not really getting what they want out of this.
No, they don't. And they're not really taking fights whatsoever. They're not able to get anything really accomplished for the most part. The problem is, again, most of their early game power is in this Olaf. Hyper is doing his best to try to power farm, try to get some tower pressure, and try to get himself gold. Oh, he's in a really
speaking of Hyper, he's going to get found. He's going to try and go for the damage here. He does a ton, but he is going to get taking the damage back. Man attack, though. Big heals. Chime baited by that, forced to flash away over the wall and is to try and avoid getting taken out here. Now, Hyper, at the very least, is doing quite a bit of damage.
That heal was like 600 health. That was ridiculous. We're 12 minutes in the game. What?
That wasn't even Wish. Okay, I thought that was the Wish on top of it.
No, that was just the W.
That was just the Astral Blessing. Oh my goodness.
Oh my. Okay, hold on. I gotta check. That's not even like a rank 5 Astral Infusion. So I thought maybe what had happened is they went 3 points Q into like 5 points W just to try to get this Olaf going. That was a level 2 heal from Soraka. That was insane. Now, in fairness, it was also bolstered by the fact that the Athenes was on it. I don't know if any extra healing had come out from anything else. Maybe the Aerie, maybe the shield made it look bigger. But my lord, that Soraka, that's the intention right there, is if you can get Soraka and Senna to put those kinds of heals onto a frontline Olaf, it doesn't really matter how much damage you've got on the side of Supernova. You're going to have to work through a ton of it at once just to make sure you can kill him.
Yeah, and you can actually already see Supernova adjusting for this already, sitting on 2 of those Executioner's callings because they're seeing that heal too. They're saying, all right, we need an answer for this right away because that was nuts. We do have the push now in the mid lane here, the rotation from Supernova, sending that bot lane into the mid.
If that is the case, good gold advantage for them. Also, plates just drop. Actually, doesn't look like any tower was taken so far. It's just going to be the initial one. Man, back here.
Just trying to rack up a little bit of that damage as these teams really fond of these lane swaps. I feel like we haven't had a true old-fashioned laning phase for quite some time now as everyone keeps swapping around, looking for these objectives, looking for any small advantages they can get. But yeah, this is slightly more the style I think that Issues Critical are going to want to play, this slow and steady.
Yeah, they're utilizing this as a way to try to like just take away any aggression that could come through from the side of Supernova with their picks. Obviously, with an Aurelia, with a Set, with a Misfortune, and a Thresh, you can fight very early, skirmish very early. You have plenty of that like very quick power in the game. Unfortunately, this constant rotation is not just it's not just defending him; it's also costing him quite a bit of like farm, which is why you're seeing farm disadvantages across the board for the most part.
Speaking of, here he goes. This is going to be the Vanguard's Edge pop, flashing away though, and now here comes the re-engage. It's actually going to land on Jurassic. The Lantern is down. He's not able to click it though. He's rooted, he's stunned, and Meech is going to take him down. That's going to be Issues critical, finding something off the back of Supernova, maybe overreaching.
Yeah, nice little play right there. Again, very defensive composition, able to respond to pressure really, really well. So Ideology able to finally get that ultimate off on a Misfortune. And the pick was big. I didn't see the kill actually went on a Senna. That's a fantastic target for that kill to go over to, given that she's really not farming all that much in this earlier game.
Horn coming out. This is going to be the Thresh hook, though, so he was not going to be able to knock the Ram back in, taking some damage, but does have this rocket to heal him up. This is going to be the Aurelia trying to go back in, but the stun is going to come through. Requiem over the top, but not that much damage to come through. Dawning Shadow keeping the team alive. Pie Lord, though, is going to take the kill. He's going to take a second one here as well. Odd Orange actually picks that one up. Wall of Pain not quite able to land the slow. Pie Lord wants more, but he's not going to be able to find it. The rest of the team backs off. Issue is critical. Peeling back after taking down that mid lane tower.
Yeah, a little bit tough. I think they got a little overextended, a little antsy for the fight, all things said and done. Nonetheless, taking down that tower, getting a kill for themselves. They've decreased the lead now. I think it was a little higher than 3,000 gold just a minute ago, so that's good for them to be able to find that one. Though the Rift Herald now goes the way of Supernova, this is a way of getting themselves just a faster way to amplify the game speed, and that's exactly what they want. Is they don't want this slow-paced game that's been happening so far. The more fighting that happens, the better it is for Supernova.
Yeah, and speaking of Supernova, they will be able to take down that bottom lane tower as well, so equalizing the turret score at least, and the Drake spawning soon as well, so that tower falling is going to be important for that potential fight coming up.
That it is. Now they can also just immediately take this Rift Herald, drop it top lane if they want. They don't get massive efficiency out of it, but they do at least break another tower, which again, they could also potentially use it as a focus point to where Dragon's coming up. Do you challenge top lane to prevent this Rift Herald push, or do you go for the Dragon if you're the defensive composition? Because they can't really fight much. So either they lose the Dragon and lose top tower, or they lose 2 top towers and get the Dragon offhand. It kind of looks like they're just opting to give 2 top towers in exchange for this Cloud Drake.
Yeah, Issues critical decide they want the power for the scaling composition. They say, we don't need these towers, really. And actually, the Herald is still being sat on by Odd Orange. He hasn't summoned it up, so they might try to use it to break the inhibitor tower here as Strumpus rotates up as well. So the trade's going to happen. Araxis is going to be responding to this push. But no, actually, Supernova content themselves with just the 2 towers.
Yeah, able to get that back off, I guess, a little bit more. The Odd Orange must want to use it mid lane so that they can break that apart and start pushing the ward line up a little bit further. Because again, that would allow Chime and not just Chime, but also Pie Lord a lot of access to be able to rove around and start up fights a little bit easier. So that must be the point that they're looking for most. No punishment onto him, able to get away.
Yeah, Chime able to barely walk out of that situation, was in a bit of a rough spot, but had the mobility boots get himself to safety here. So Supernova able to take the 2 towers top lane, still trying to accelerate this game. Like you said, are sitting on the Rift Herald, but it's going to be really hard to breach these inner towers, especially with the composition that Issues Critical has constructed, like we've been talking about.
That has. And again, if they're able to slow down this game more with more dragons, so right now also Supernova can't access the Dragon Soul for at least 3 more Drakes, which is a ton of time for them to be able to force. So Baron might have to be the option if they want to try to push this further. This is the big breaking point. I don't know if they're able to defend this right now with who they have around. So it's a free mid tower as well. And again, that's going to allow a lot better warding around the middle of the map to be able to rotate with Thresh. Even like Strumpus by Lord being able to generate fights just off the back of further up vision is going to be huge for trying to, deny all the defense that can come out from top side of Issues.
Yeah, strip away the vision, strip away the ability to play safe in your own jungle. And Supernova thinks that's the route that they're going to be able to find for the team. As focus now turning towards the Baron, like you just talked about, spawning up in a minute here. The vision going to start to be cleared away by Supernova, starting to prep that, but could be risky going for this early Baron, even though you do have the good single target from the Karthus.
That you do. Again, with a composition like this, Hyper can absolutely run in and do plenty of work. You've got the big silencing zone is another really big way that a team fight can go very awry for Supernova very quickly if they cluster too much, and especially if it's on top of Odd Orange to deny him any of that DPS from having this Karthus pick. It's just one single ability able to deny that so much. Although, again, I think if they force it or if they're able to get a fight ahead of time, be more than enough. Odd Orange is
actually, here we go. Odd Orange, he's going to be caught out. He's going to be taken down. But meanwhile, on the bottom side of the map, they are going to get the set showing up. Ornhorn comes through, but it's not nearly enough as he will be taken down. Supernova now trying to pressure down the bottom side. 1-for-1 trade across the map here. And that's going to be a tower for Supernova.
Yeah, it always means nothing whenever these fights go either even or in the favor of Issue is Critical, because obviously on the opposite side of the map, they're setting up for some of these plays for towers. Right now, they're actually looking to maybe break an inhibitor tower.
Yeah, working on it. They will be able to get it. The good hook onto Jurassic is going to try and slow him up. He's rooted down, takes the ultimate here. Sweetology forced to flash away, but Jurassic is going to survive so far. Piekick Lord, though, will be the sacrificial limb here. He does go down. Actually, Command Attack found Jurassic on the side. He's on the Chime now, who is very slow. He has no way out. Going to hook onto the Gromp and try and pull himself to safety here. Takes some damage, burns the flash. Trying to work his way towards the blast cone. Actually pops Command Attack over the wall, but he should be going down here. Struggled as much as he could, but nothing else he could do at the end of the day. So that was going to be the tower falling, but 3 kills here picked up for Issue is Critical at the very least. Help him slow the game down.
Yeah, they were able to get that first inner tower, which I think would have been a worthwhile trade because it was just the 1-for-1 and the inhibitor tower, or the inhibitor tower. But they go for the inhibitor tower, are able to break it, but lose quite a bit of gold off the back end, having lost that fight. Another big part is, again, Hyper is slowly picking up quite a bit of this gold off the ground. Right now, he's the highest gold value of champion in the game. And again, with a Soraka, with an Affine's sitting behind him, and now starting to get some more damage on this Senna, it's starting to become a very scary prospect to where the Olaf might actually start being able to run into a team and just start winning fights on its own.
Very, very scary Olaf here, of course. But at the very least, for Supernova, they did break the base of Issue is Critical. So that's one of the hardest things to do here, and they've finally actually done it in the bottom lane. That gives them a potential pressure point for Piekick Lord to play around, especially given that his teleport's available. Yeah,
that's correct. Doesn't have to worry too much about being responded to. I mean, the best you can do, it's either Ornn, who he can absolutely take in a duel, still not too much armor, no Bramble Vest stack, importantly for the side of Dragoon here, so he's not going to be able to deny that ambient healing, even if he does get a good trade. The other thing is you could put Command Attack in that lane, but that's a really risky proposition with all the damage currently built on Piekick Lord, so he's pretty free to split push on his own. And again, with no TP on Soraka, it's really just got to be Dragoon, and until he gets a little more armor, I don't think he feels perfectly comfortable in that lane taking any fights.
Yeah, you can see actually letting Piekick Lord push all the way up as he actually rotates down towards the mid lane here. Might be trying to make something happen with the Ornn. We're going to back away at the end of the day as a hook is going to land with Sweetology. He's going to get stunned from Flawless Duet. Trying to survive, though. He does have the Soraka healing. Chime pops a stone play, but this is actually going to be Strobus taking the kill here. Noraxis has come around the backside. This is going to be the Aurelia going down here. Chime down in a bad spot. Piekick Lord has gotten into the back line, though. He's on to Command Attack. He's trying to finish him off, but doesn't quite have the damage yet. Decent maneuvering around. Jurassic has finally shown up. Is going to be able to take the kill here. As Piekick Lord now brawling on the side. Hyper was able to take a double kill, but very low HP forced him to back off. Now, Ornn is going to be the focus of the target here. Noraxis is able to walk it out at the end of the day. 3 for 3, these teams trading back and forth, but at the end of the day, no one really able to pressure off of this. Hyper looking at the Drake, but I don't know that he wants to go for it all by himself.
Yeah, we'll have his support up first, and actually the Senna's going to be there too. Pretty quickly, Odd Orange is down for a very long time, so they're not going to have Smite available on the side of Supernova, so they might just have to give this one up.
Yeah, actually, yeah, Dragoon gonna get caught out here. Piekick Lord actually trying to chase him down. The Bone Plane coming up at just the right time. Here comes the support. Jurassic around the side, trying to stall out for a little bit. Dodges out the undertow. Ragnarok popped here from Hyper. Lantern does come through to pull him to safety, but this will be the Drake for Issue is Critical. I have to think Odd Orange is not even showing up to contest, so this will be an easy take.
Yeah, you saw what happened in the fight was, again, it started off with a pretty good pick. I believe it was onto Sweetology in that one. And once he went down, that was a shame. But the thing was, they lined up pretty well for Olaf to be able to run in and just start putting down damage. And that's exactly what it is. He went in and he put down the hammer and he made sure damage would be dealt. Unfortunately, Piekick Lord had his own ability to get onto the backline. He ults one of these members, gets his own trade on the backside. That's why it was a 3 for 3. If they're able to deny Piekick Lord that access, especially to the Soraka in the fight, that goes very differently. And I think it's cleaned up much, much better by Hyper in this one. And even after all things said and done, gold lead's still only about, 4,000, 4,500 at this point. 3 Drakes now for the side of Issue is critical, and they're slowly getting the Senna and the Soraka to the point to help this this Olaf out. Now has Spirit Visage as well, so these heals really going to keep them alive for a very long time in fights.
Going to be a very, very hard Olaf to kill here. Attention is going to turn to the top side, and I think we do want to talk here as well. Soul is on the table here potentially for Issues Critical. They've got the 3 Drakes. They're looking at getting the 4th here in the next 5 minutes or so, and that is potentially their win condition here, is getting that Soul and saying, all right, now we're strong enough that we can fight. We have the Olaf. He has that bonus movement speed on the Cloud Soul. Very, very good for him. So they don't, I think, even need to worry about taking the spare, and they can just sort of make sure that Supernova doesn't get it.
Yeah, and what I'm also waiting for is there's a break point. I need to see when Senna's, I don't know if there's a way to see it. It's actually, yeah, the Harrowing Crescent is almost finished upgraded at that 1,000 gold mark, where then the Senna can officially start farming. She gets to take any minion she wants at this point in the game. And again, at this point, she's sitting on quite a few stacks, 75 stacks right now. An ADC Senna would not have 75 stacks right now. So you're talking 75 free AD that she's gotten from this process. Plus, you have all the gold. She's already relevant in the game. She's not super far behind. It's far behind in terms of Jurassic, but plenty to work with already. Once that farm starts coming through, she gets real.
Here on the Strong Fist, as the fight is going to break out around, Vanguard's edge is going to be burned, but I think it's more of a disengage, as here comes Hyper. He's on the front side here. He's going to be trying to take down the early flashing, but still getting stunned up. And meanwhile, on the backside here, though, Pie Lord is going through. He's going to get knocked up, though. Great Ornn E is going to keep his team alive for a little bit longer. As Command Attack tries to run away, he does take the hook. He does go down. Auto Orange now is finally going to fall, but he's going to have the Requiem coming through. Naraxis flashes, but there's nowhere for him to go. He goes down. Meech, though, DPSing on the backside. Jurassic flashing forward to try and take the kill. He is going to get it with a press the attack proc. Hyper now forced to run away as the rest of his team is down. Hook is going to miss on the backside here, but that's ultimately 2 for 4 in favor of Supernova, and they're not done.
Yeah, again, the issue here is that Hyper continues to aggress onto the backline, which is perfectly fine because you're able to get quite a bit of damage. But Jurassic wasn't pressured because he wasn't in the backline. It was Strumpus and Odd Orange on the backside of the fight. And so when you have the forward pressure of Jurassic, Piecake Lord, and Shine just throwing into a team with literally no damage, I mean, you've got a Senna who doesn't even have a second item completed quite yet to fight for your team. That's your damage output for the rest of the team outside of Hyper. Hyper has to not go that deep into a fight. He does have to extend it to make sure the Aurelia can't just bounce around, to make sure the stat can't just bounce around and hit all 5 people at once. But otherwise, Hyper needs to stay a little closer because he can do damage to the people directly in front of him and allow his healers to heal him instead of just flying forward and then costing his team a team fight.
Yeah, really tragic as well for Hyper. Tried to flash the Flawless Duet at the very end and secure the kill on his Strumpist and flashed into it instead. So that's a little bit more time. He was way, way out of the fight like you're talking about, not able to get all the way onto the important team members. So Strumpist did get picked, but ended up playing the role Supernova needed him to. But Supernova still didn't get really anything of value out of that fight.
They did not. Again, yeah, the pace for these neutral objective takes. So they in the earlier stage of the game, there were a ton of towers on the map that they were able to rotate to very, very quickly because you have the Thresh, you have the Misfortune, ways to get people around, and really you're just power farming with the Odd Orange. Now they're looking for the Baron here. This is the first attempt they've had at a neutral objective, and it will be contested. Hyper has no flash to get over the pit, though.
The Issues Critical, they do know they're going to be trying to check this one out. Hyper, no flash, and this is going to be Piecake Lord. He's hovering around the backside here. Looking like he might be able to try and carry it away as they actually do go in onto him. He's going to pop the punch in order to try and stall for time as Swordology goes through. This is Baron secured for Supernova, but they are going to get engaged upon. This is going to be the tackle taking him out, but Hyper now, he's on the front line. They're trying to give him the heals. They're trying to keep him alive. He's doing the damage. Jurassic is going to get rooted up. He's going to get shut down. Piecake Lord, though, he's still fighting, but it doesn't matter. Hyper claims him as well. Supernova take the Baron, but at what cost?
Yeah, they cluster together once again. So Hyper comes in really late to that fight, unfortunately, because Piecake Lord, a hero able to stall out long enough for his team to take the Baron, and that's a really big take. Odd Orange and Shine, the only two with that left on it, because they're the only ones that survive the fight afterwards. Because again, when you have all those members clustered together around that Baron pit area, Hyper can do a ton of damage. You see finally the fight that I've been trying to explain for most of the time. Hyper just hits anybody in front of him, keeps the entire enemy team there, and then all the heals come through and they can't kill Hyper. And you saw him get healed time and time and time and time again, and he just continues to pound it again. When Senna gets to a point where her damage starts to ramp up to the level of Olaf's or even beyond, this fight's completely over. There is no competition from the side of Supernova at that point, so they have to ramp up and try to get this game finished with maybe this Baron buff, or at least do damage to the base with this Baron buff. Because now Cloud Soul is going to be finished, and that is a triple Cloud Drake Olaf running into your face.
Yeah, that is a very, very scary proposition here for Supernovas. They actually go for Sweatology. They get the stun onto him as he tries to rope himself to safety here. Aftershock keeping him alive for a little bit longer as he pulls himself to the turret. Chime not able to get the hook. So this is going to be a team fight Supernova will have to take against a Cloud Soul Olaf. It's a very scary proposition, but here we go. Strumpus on the front line here. He is going to be able to take down the Nautilus, but here comes Hyper. He's unstoppable. He is unkillable. Takes the double kill now, set on the back line here. He's trying to stall for a little bit more time, but I don't think there's anything else he can do. Finally pops the punch and gets the heal, but he does go down to the Ornn. Hyper, nothing they can do about that Olaf.
No, not at all. And again, now he has Randuin's completed, so most of the damage coming through from Pycake Lord, Strumpus, Jurassic, all of that is just AD. He finished the Spirit Visage early for the additional healing. Now he's got armor alongside the upgraded Obsidian Cleaver, and the Warrior means he's pumping out a ton of damage, and there's no resistance to keep him off of this backline. This is going to be a really big take, and of course, this is the Baron team. Supernova had the Baron. They should have been the ones in position to set up to at least slow push that bot lane, aim towards that inhibitor, and maybe break that, then look for the second Baron. But instead, they take a fight unnecessarily, end up losing it, and now they're the ones that's going to have the crippled base, all things said and done.
Yeah, fight did not go the way Supernova wanted it to. They still have Baron on at least one member as Chime looks for the hook, but he gets Hyper. I don't think it's who he wanted. Hyper goes Ragnarok immediately. He gets the Dawning Shadow. He gets some of the heals. He goes Legendary. Strumpus is now the subject of aggression here. Meech will take that one out. Hook finally landing on the backside, but again, it's not who you want. Pycake Lord, though, he's going to get the tackle back through. They're trying to take down the Olaf, but he just won't die. And now Pycake Lord, he's crowd controlled. He's going to go down as well. Raxus picks that one up, and actually the flasher on the backside, Hyper does not care. He wants it. He's not going to get it at the end of the day, though. No more heals to follow, so we'll be forced to back away. But this is going to be the game here for Issue is Critical. Play the scale and comp, and at the end of the day, that is what is going to get them to get the win.
Yeah, and I'll say this because I think it's very important to say. 99% of all times, junglers will not be able to make this composition work. This is a Hyper-exclusive composition. Hyper is so good at being aggressive and being able to take the game into his own hands. And you saw it right there. Hyper played super well early game, just tried to clear as best he could, take what gave all the map possible. It's pretty insane. So I got a big appreciation to Hyper. And again, they played their composition very well, very defensively. They gave up a ton early game, which was very scary for them. They lost all the towers on the map as best they could, or just during that early game to Supernova, but it never let them bend them out of shape. They always knew what the end game was. Get Hyper to a point where he can just run into a team and win the fight with our Soraka, with our Senna. Everything turned out all right.
Yeah, well, and important to note as well, like you were saying, you said finally we got a fight where they were actually able to execute on their strategy, and they were able to make that work. They had a couple of times where that fight is exactly how it unfolded. You had the Olaf just run at the enemy team, get all of the heals, you had the scaling underway, and that's what made it work. Now, I do think it was important to note, yeah, this only works because Hyper is such a good player, but interesting strategy that you just kind of see the laning phase entirely. You say everyone is a utility character except the Olaf, and that's the strategy that you end up making work. And meanwhile, Supernova, I think they knew what their game plan was. They tried to play aggressively. They tried to play for the early game dominance, but it wasn't enough, especially because they didn't have the Drake control.
Yeah, in a game like this, I would have loved to see something more split push oriented for Pycake Lord. I know back in the day, I remember him in Academy playing Fiora in a very mean way. I know the Camille was taken away from him in the draft. Those are very real options that would have put a massive dent into the composition from the side of Issue is Critical. My apologies. I can't remember that name for the life of me. But yeah, if he had that split push pressure that would have been on the map, again, I think if they had set that up properly where they had the Baron buff towards the end of the game where Pycake Lord can slow push towards that inhibitor and then they could wait for second Baron and try to take the fight there, might have had the opportunity to close the game off the back of that one. But unfortunately, they just got run over time and time again, lost a few members here, lost a few members there, and never got a fight.
Yeah, difficult proposition, unfortunately. So Supernova will have to make some adjustments here as we go into game 2. They don't want to give this one up to Issue is Critical this early on, especially not after both these teams 1-1 playing for that second place slot. So we'll have to see what they do. We're going to hop over to a brief intermission here as we set up for the next game, but don't go anywhere. When we come back, game 2 of Supernova versus Issue is Critical will be live. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are back here getting set for Champ Selective Game 2 for Supernova versus Issue is Critical. Obviously, Issue is Critical. They had the better draft, they had the better strategy, and they were able to pull it out at the end of the day. Now going into Champ Select for Game 2, what is Supernova going to do? What are they going to be able to pull out in order to change things up and get a different game going on?
I mean, ideally, Supernova would have learned initially what the game plan was from the side of Issue is Critical, in that they went with a very non-standard draft. It's hard to pull off a non-standard draft 2 games in a row in the same fashion. And so if Supernova knows what they're doing, and I know that they know what they're doing, you're not going to be able to pull out that same thing if you're on the side of Issue is Critical. Now, they could run a very similar composition where you have a lot more pressure from Hyper, you can go a little bit more supportive with your mid and things like that, but I don't think you can get away with the same kind of double healing composition. So I wouldn't expect very similar champions, and not necessarily a ton of like very different bans either, just because of the fact that, again, that seems like more of a sucker punch composition than it is like an actual like meta composition.
Yeah, so Issue is Critical going to be changing things up on their own side instead of trying to play the same composition again. So Supernova, the question is, will they know that, or will they try to ban out some of the things that made that comp work for Issue is Critical, ban out the Soraka, for example, and then essentially have Issue is Critical saying, no, we weren't going to play that anyways.
Yeah, and switching sides does kind of change the dynamic on things like that, in that you have to take into account not only what the other team played, and then what is going to be available. On red side, you get that double first pick, and there's plenty of strong champions right now. So if you're good enough at banning away things that are strong enough in the meta, you're able to take away a couple of different picks. So like Supernova, they got set, they got Misfortune afterwards, but the Ornn and the Olaf, 2 very big proponents, as well as the Soraka, and just their first rotation was huge. Odd Orange played the Karthus, which didn't have a massive impact in that game, but they prioritized it so highly that it took up that 3rd slot that they could have gone for a power pick in. And I think part of that just comes from, again, being on blue side, trying to get that pick against the Olaf to make sure that jungler wasn't banned out.
Yeah, and let's not forget as well, Odd Orange was the substitute here. Frosty Nomad ordinarily would be playing. He's playing for Twitch Rivals instead. So that might have been part of the adjustment, is Supernova saying, well, what do you want to play, Odd Orange? What's your preferred strategy? He said Karthus. They said, okay, cool. Let's get you something that you're going to be comfortable on. And that had an effect on their whole draft strategy instead. But we're going to be hopping into pick ban here right now. And Jarvan the Fourth, like you said, going to be banned out. Probably very similar bans here, but it's going to be an Issue is Critical to pick something here first that they really, really want to lock in.
That is J4 taking away Aphelios. I think those are identical bans to what we saw last game. Not necessarily in the same order. Lee Sin and Cassiopeia were the first 2 last time. So we'll see if those also follow. Again, Lee Sin would be an interesting one, because priority on Lee Sin coming through from Issue is Critical could be huge for Hyper, but then it would open the door for Supernova if they want to get some massive set of picks afterwards, especially a really strong bot lane would be really big.
Yeah, instead, Elise going to be taken off the board here. And like you said, really big bot lane. Xayah Rakan could be an option here. That was actually on the table in the first pick ban phase here. Neither team decided to go for it, and then the Xayah got banned out in the second ban phase, so it was off the board. But if Issue is Critical say, hey, we really want that Lee Sin, they could opt for that, and then Supernova could respond by saying, hey, we want the Xayah Rakan. But Soraka actually is going to get banned out here. We kind of talked about that a little bit. And looking like the Lee Sin and Olaf might still be able to squeak their way through, and Issue is Critical then have to determine, do we want to make this another Hyper game?
Yeah. Now, my question is also, of course, if the bans stay relevant, Camille would be the pick here. I don't know that that's going to be the case again. I think there are other picks that you potentially look for. Rek'Sai. They're going to triple ban Odd Orange, which is huge. That's a lot of his pool taken away. My question now also is Lee Sin, Olaf, or Yuumi, because all 3 of them are very strong champions. Hyper either gets fed, but you can't ban out both. So the question is, like, which do you have priority on more? I'd say Lee Sin is more of the champion for him. Now, they're going to leave both up, so they will get one of those in their pocket, because the triple ban on the Odd Orange means that, thankfully, Lee Sin or Olaf will be left up for him to take at the bottom of the 3rd round, or the 1st round, my apologies.
Yeah, will have an option for which one he wants. In fact, he will still get an option for which one he wants, because Issue is Critical, they elect for the Ornn here first.
Yeah, not shocking. And the reason for that is I think that Hyper feels more confident on both Lee Sin and Olaf. So it doesn't matter which one that he takes in that matchup. He also probably has a deeper pool, because, again, Jarvan, Elise, Rek'Sai, all much more targeted towards the side of Odd Orange. So his pool's been collapsed. He has to take one of these two, which means if Hyper's got a pool or a champion response to one of these, he can wait for it in the draft a little bit further. And now they already had that information readily available that Lee Sin was going to come through.
Yeah, so Lee Sin, that is going to be the pick here for Odd Orange, so at least we'll have one comfortable champion and set. We didn't talk about it, but that champion did go through as well. Supernova, this time they're going to have the, or I guess they had it again, they had it in the last game as well, so picking up the set again was very strong. They were able to do a lot with the pick, just wasn't quite enough with the jungle support, but this time around, Odd Orange on the Lee Sin, little bit more pressure than the Karthus.
Yeah, I would hope that would be the case at least. Not having to power farm your way through. Cassiopeia was banned out last game, taken away from Strumpus, and they're not going to get it for the side of Strumpus either. They're going to deny that pick away by taking it here, although they do give away their mid lane pick. A little surprising here, so you can potentially counter that. Of course, it can be flexed between top and mid. It's not bad into the set. Does deny him a little bit of that mobility. It wouldn't shock me also to see a top, or my apology, a jungle counter here if they're willing to take it, because this would be the Olaf ideally if they really want to take it. Otherwise they have to have some pick readily available for second rotation, but I'd rather see a jungler here.
Yeah, definitely want to take it, not get it banned out instead, but they decide they don't care. He's going to be comfortable no matter what he's playing, because it's going to be the Braum locked in instead. So trying to make sure that that's going to be the potential bot lane. No, sorry. There is going to be, the third pick is the Graves. So it is going to be Graves there in the jungle here for Hyper. We did get confirmation in the chat. So that's what's going to be on the table. A little awkward if Supernova do want to take the Braum a little bit later, but
yeah. Little interesting, and once again, it's a champion you can carry on very heavily in a very different way than Olaf. It does require a little bit of scaling. Thresh is locked in here for the side of Supernova. Going to be able to get that one for themselves. They can now ban out the champion pool or the support champion pool. So now you worry about what you're actually going to take bot lane right now, because you haven't taken a bot lane champion. I guess Ornn can be flexed down there. Cassiopeia can gotta be flexed down there. But right now I'm leaning towards the fact that the bot lane hasn't been taken for the side of Issue is critical. So now does Supernova pinch AD pool? Do they pinch support pool? Do they pinch both? I'm not really sure.
I think it would make sense to try and pinch out the support pool here. Morgana is going to get taken off the table again, so these sort of very defensive picks, they are going to be removed. The Azir, again, Issues critical. I believe this is their second time banning that around, so not letting Supernova play that pick here. So could be, again, very aggressive bottom lane champions. You already have the Thresh locked in, so Nautilus could be picked here for Issues critical. And Zyra Khan, that's still open. If Supernova don't pick one of them, then Issues critical, I think, could just take the both.
Yeah. Now, the double ban onto Morgana and Nautilus means that this should be an MF ban, because that should be the priority here from the side of Supernova, is the next best ADC outside of the Aphelios, unless the center really wants to come through, but you don't see that often. I would expect MF to be priority for Supernova, and they have first pick here. So now, IIC, if they don't ban it, they know it's going to come through. Like, that has to come through unless there's no way to. It's going to be Ezreal ban.
Yeah, they say, you know what, doesn't matter. We don't think Supernova is going to want to play, even though they did in the last game. So ban out the Ezreal instead, try to make sure that they can't have the safe lane. But Misfortune is on the table. Now, like we're talking about before, Zyra Khan potentially, unless Supernova want to try and deny the Xayah here, you could take that on their pick. So
Varus could also come through. I know that's something that Jurassic likes to play quite a bit.
Yeah. Instead, Victor.
Yeah,
so picking the mid lane, saving the AD carry for last year. Both teams don't want to bother playing the game of chicken. They're just keep passing priority back and forth to each other. So Issues critical. They'll have to round their team out with the bot lane picks. Could be the Cassiopeia flex like we talked about. So they might be looking for a mid laner here.
Yeah, and that's what's surprising here, is because if you take your mid laner last, you know whether the flex pick comes out, but if you take it second, you don't have to worry about that nearly as much, because you can take that into either matchup. So you take something strong in Cassiopeia, can't flex it in either lane, you're fine. Zilean locked in. Again, that was my apologies, that's a Graves jungle, so it should be a Zilean support unless they are flexing Cassiopeia bot.
Yeah, but I do actually like the Zilean here. I think it does give you a decent amount of protection if there's any burst that tries to come through on the side of Supernova, especially with someone like the Victor who can put out so much damage. And it's looking like that is going to be the Cass bottom lane, as you do have the Leona locked in here. So Cassiopeia, Leona bottom lane, and the Zilean here for the mid.
Very interesting. It's a lot of magic damage, not a lot of AD to follow up here from the side of Issue is critical. And the final pick is that Kai'Sa going to be joining them in that one. Good team fighting champion, another one of those that can provide quite a bit of burst when she gets some of those items through. It should feel fine in the laning phase. I don't think the Kai'Sa is particularly susceptible to the Cassiopeia and the 1v1. The Leona is the real fear, but that's what the Thresh is for.
Yeah, so Supernova, with a lot of that burst potential, with a lot of that pick potential, sitting on the Lee Sin, the Set, the Kaisa, they have a lot of flexibility. They have a lot of ways to pick fights here. Issue is critical, though. They're playing that sort of front-to-back team fight style composition, sort of similar to what they had the last time, except instead of the heals, you have the Zillion to keep somebody alive through the initial burst and then respond. And the Cassiopeia, really good when teams try to come into her.
Yeah, that's correct. They once again play one of these compositions. They have quite a bit of engage across with Ornn and Leona, so they can engage from far away, or they can counter engage with quite a few of these tools as well, especially with that Zillion bomb coming through. That they could power up either the Cassiopeia or the Graves when the time comes. My curiosity also comes from, again, I know it's very unlikely. It's possible command attack still takes Cassiopeia mid, and you could see the same thing we saw with Senna last game, but this time with Zillion, where he just pokes away with the bombs and then takes very minimal farm to try to get him to that point where he stacks the full support item before he starts taking minion.
Yeah, so we'll have to wait on the actual champ select in order to see where the flexes are going to come from. Issue is critical, but again, they're really playing that flex game. They're trying to put things in different lanes here. The biggest thing for me is, of course, Hyper. I think we have to talk about how well he did in the last game. He was able to have such a big impact, though. Of course, he had the whole team propping him up. This time around, a little bit less support from the team. He does have the initiation. He has the speed boost, but how's he going to play, especially given that Auto Orange is sitting on that Lee Sin this time around?
Yeah, so on the opposite side, I'm going to take a look at Supernova's composition really quick. Victor has Gravity Field. You have Thresh to deny some of the zoning tool. But you outside of the kick, you don't have tons of just pure disengage for Graves or for the rest of the composition to come through. So then the problem is, if your damage dealers get engaged on by, say, Leona, by Ornn, by Zillion Bombs, anything of the sort, Graves can move forward and do a ridiculous amount of damage. And his support in this isn't the same in that you have a ton of healing and you're really just relying on him just pure face tanking everything and doing all the damage. This time he has to play a lot more methodically, positioned properly, but all the CC is there and the speed ups from Zillion and then the ult for quick Guardian Angel essentially on the go is really useful for Viper to be able to take over these fights. Now, the one problem is Olaf is a lot more powerful quick in the game. Graves takes a little while to actually ramp up to the state where he can take over those fights in that 1v5, essentially, to where he will just run over Supernova's composition. So getting him there is going to be the hard part. But I think in this game, Issues Critical has a much better composition to try for something like that.
Yeah, do have some tools in order to enable that pick still. So Hyper, doesn't matter what he's playing, he's still going to try and make it happen this time around. But you do have a little bit more early aggression, I think, this time around for Supernova. You've got the Lee Sin, you have the Victor, who I think does still have the ability to sort of wave clear on the Zillion. So Supernova, I think, again, has some really good scaling in the Kaisa and in the Victor.
Yeah, that they do. And again, it's surprisingly, they don't have a lot of fight against that kind of scaling. So like Victor and Kaisa should feel perfectly fine to get to a point where they can actually fight most of the time during the laning phase, where they're able to, get this, like Victor versus Zillion, you're not going to see a ton of solo kills in that lane outside of jungle pressure that might come through. Cassiopeia Leona is a really strong lane if they get the engage down because there's no movement that can come through from Kaisa. But Shine played so well last game, I think it's going to be hard to get any sort of engagement onto Jurassic.
Yeah, very, very nicely played. And he's back on that Thresh again, so definitely looking forward to see him pop off again, once again on this champion and be able to set things up. And like you were saying, very low mobility on the Cassiopeia and on the Leona. So there is the potential to just sort of have a field day and set things up so that by the time Strompus comes down or Auto Orange comes down, you have the ability to set these fights up in a situation where there's nowhere for Meech to go, there's nowhere for Sweatology to go.
Yeah, that's correct. I'm like looking at lanes across here and I'm really just trying to come up. I guess like Set is the best place you could look for to play against if you're on Orange, because on Orange is on this Lee Sin who likes to get aggressive early, but like you're not going to find a lot into the Zillion, especially once that level 6 comes through. And Thresh and Thresh and the Kaisa could set up something on the bottom side as well into Cassiopeia Leona, but that's going to be tough too, just because of the engage and the disengage Leona can provide with all the CC she has. So then, like, Lee Sin's kind of stuck where, you're either hunting Graves, which could be kind of rough to do, or you're trying to gank for this Set in the top lane, try to get Pie Cake Lord ahead.
Yeah, which is an option. We saw Pie Cake Lord really did well on that set in the last game, popped off and managed to make a couple of fights that looked like they were just going to be straight losses into sort of tied fights, even across the board for Supernova. So is the potential to do that, but we are going to be hopping over into intermission real quick. But before we go, we do want to talk to you guys about our sponsor, Kono. If you're looking to take your game to the next level, it all starts with your peripherals. From keyboards, keycaps, mice, and more, our friends at Kono have got you covered. Kono works with the world's best designers, inventors, and makers to bring you some of the best gaming peripherals around. They've been huge supporters of us here at Upsurge and have made generous contributions to our prize pools. If you need to find a new keyboard, check out Hexgear's X1 RGB low-profile Bluetooth mechanical keyboard. You can use the discount code UpsurgeGG for 7% off your first order. For more information, head over to kono.store to check out all they have to offer. That's KONO.store. Kono, discover amazing products. Go check them out, and when you come back, we will be on the riff for Game 2 of Issue is Critical versus Supernova.
Cover your wounds, but underneath them a million voices in your head that whisper, stop now. Another twist of the knife, a turn of the screws. It's all in your mind and it's fighting you. Arm yourself, the storm is coming. Wow, kid, what you gonna do now? It's your reflection looking back to pull you down. So are you gonna die today and make it out alive? You gotta conquer the monster in your head and then you'll fly, fly, Phoenix fly. It's time for a new empire. Go bury your demons, then tear down the ceiling, Phoenix fly. And now you're playing with matches, come out of the ashes underneath you. A million voices in the crowd, they're screaming, stop now. Well, let them swallow the pride, you're turning the tide to true believers. Got them in the boat.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are here on the riff for Game 2 of Issue is Critical versus Supernova. Issue is Critical, of course. That very, very nice Game 1, getting Hyper to just snowball all over the enemy team. And now here we are, Game 2. Hyper on the graves instead, and Supernova looking to try and take this match to game point. Chime back on that Thresh, looking to make some of the plays, help his team out in this pretty dire situation for the team.
Yeah, was certainly capable of doing it last time. Oh, Strompus takes the bomb from command attack.
Pings mana flow band real quick there. Level 1. Got it.
Game's busted. It's over. GG, throw in the towel now, unfortunately. Strumpus taking that bomb, giving free mana to Zillion. He's just feeding the enemy at this point.
Yeah, free damage. I mean, that's really first blood right there. Like, it doesn't matter who actually, what the game says at this point. Issue is critical. They got it. They did the first damage. So
Yeah, actually, right now, Issue is Critical has done infinitely more damage to the side of Supernova than the opposition. So
you're not wrong, because 300 is still more than one. Not that the bomb did that much, but either way, we have a very slow start. Actually, Hook is going to land here, going to pull himself onto Meech. Going to take a couple of auto attacks here as he tries to run away. Bait for Swidology and Hyper to come around, but nothing doing at the end of the day. But that is going to be Meech popping the potion early on, taking a little bit of damage here right as the game starts.
yeah, got to appreciate that level 1 advantage gained by Chime. They don't have to go for the pure all-in directly into that fight. Didn't burn the exhaust or the ignite, anything like that. But getting that potion off and also dropping the health here will cause Cassiopeia to have to play a little more back. So Meech not feeling great about that one.
Yeah, but probably just looking to farm it out on this Cassiopeia. I don't think there's a lot he wants to do. With the prediction hook from Chime, get a little bit more damage down. Swidology is going to help peel backwards, but again, that's going to be damage down onto the Cassiopeia, who's just trying to scale at this point and getting bullied relentlessly by this Thresh. Chime, great hooks.
Yeah. Honestly, he should change his name from Chime to Hook, because obviously he doesn't look like a Bard player. Definitely looks like a Thresh player in this one, hitting everything he needs to.
Yeah, quite well for himself, as here comes the Hook back in. Most of the minions are going to take that. Chime only just now hitting level 2, but ooh, Swidology now eating the Void Seeker, down low HP. And so Supernova, you know, the concern is always when you lose game 1 that you're a little bit tilted. How's the mental after that? But looks like they're already back. They're firing on all cylinders. They say, hey, it doesn't matter what happened in the last game. We're going to go out and get them.
That they are. Really good job already putting a ton of pressure into the bot lane. One thing I am a little curious about is that Meech actually took Q level 1, which, again, with the Conqueror build isn't terrible because you use it to try to stack up your E a lot faster. But at level 1, it's not great for trying to help farm all that much unless you're trying to push out and you get wave priority. You knew you didn't have that with Thresh. So, obviously, I don't think taking Q level 1 was the play. Taking E level 1 would have gotten 1-2 more minions and allowed him to at least try to get some more back. Some pressure. It was actually set dropped the ward, but it was already swept out from Hyper, had that red ward readily available.
Yeah, so Odd Orange trying to keep tabs on Hyper this time around, and I think important to mention too, because there was the level 1 play, Meech might have panic skilled the Q instead of the E, thinking to himself, oh, I need to make sure I get out of range of here. It's actually stun comes through. They are going to get onto the crab here. Hyper, I think, did take that. Odd Orange, she's taking some damage. Gravity Field does come down. Flash away from Odd Orange. He's going to try and take the Sonic Wave, but he can't get away, and now Hyper's on to Strumpus, who's in a bad spot. Forced to flash away. His command attack flashes the wall. He gets the bomb off. He gets the second bomb as well. That's another kill. Hyper now doubling. Pike Lord is in, and the rest of the team has come up. Command attack is going to go down, and now Dragoon in a bad spot here, trying to run away as Hyper as well. Into the hook from Chime. Very nicely done. Chime's going to take that one and now flash away, but Swidology goes back over the wall, takes it with the shield pop on that Eclipse, and now Swidology, though, on the wrong side of the map. I don't think there's any way out for him. Should just be trying to run for his life. He is sitting on the double buff, so maybe has the opportunity to do something cheeky. Goes for the E, misses it, and that is going to be Odd Orange taking that one at the end of the day. Absolute clown fiesta, but it was Issue is critical striking first this time around.
Yeah, all things said and done, it was a 3-for-3. I think the one thing that makes this very important is not only first blood, but 2 kills went onto Hyper's Graves, which is, of course, again, he's still the primary carry for this team right now, which is a big proponent to what their success is going to be coming to the later game. And the setup from Command Attack was also really good, especially when he gets this GLP, when these Twin Shadows comes through. It's going to be hard to get away from Hyper without mobility, especially now. Strumpus has no flash, Odd Orange has no flash, Chime has no flash, Pike Lord has no flash. So you can take advantage of not having much CC as this Graves because all of this mobility has been taken off the map after this big fight.
And actually, speaking of the Graves, sitting in the bush here trying to go for the ambush, but he doesn't actually have doubles. Odd Orange does, as this is going to be a lot of the skill shots missing. Resonating Strike not taken in, but trying to set up that bottom lane so far has been Hyper's attempts.
He has. And again, that's his other carry, is really the Cassiopeia is the other half of this one. You feel pretty fine in the top lane. You see the trading from Dragoon onto Pike Lord there. Is it really bad from the Ornn onto the set, or vice versa? So both of them, especially if Bramble Vest gets completed very early on here for Dragoon, should feel fine.
Here we go. Bottom lane, Miasma does come down. Roots up as actually Swidology goes all the way back onto Jurassic. And now flashing forward, gets the stun down. This is going to be Odd Orange there to try and heal for his carry. Resonating Strike does land on the low health member, but looks like he is going to be forced to dash away to safety. Band attack coming down as well. Hyper's not giving up on this one, but he doesn't have any more crowd control to go. He's going to get the speed boost, trying to keep up. Resonating Strike gets Odd Orange to safety here, as well as the Ward Hop. So at the end of the day, it's just going to be the one kill picked up here, but Hyper pitching a tent bottom lane.
That is great work already by Hyper, putting a ton of pressure on the map. You don't see Graves usually get all that active on the map. Now, actually, Dragoon loses the level 6 advantage, and Pancake Lord just going to engage.
Ooh. Yeah, Pancake Lord goes all the way in. I think he should have this one no problem. Yes, he will take that solo kill. So really good place to be for Pancake Lord. So even if Supernova is not getting their bot lane ahead, they do have this set to rely on.
Yeah, that they do. And again, that's your primary engage and a lot of damage that can come through in the early stage of the game, especially when linked with that Lee Sin. So top side of the map, I don't know if the rotation should come through from Jurassic and Chime to try to move towards this Rift Herald, because Pancake Lord in this pure 1v1 is a great matchup. Now he's in trouble.
Yeah, here we go. Popping Call the Forge got here, but he will get pulled out of it by the Face Breaker. Nothing else he can do in that situation. Wanted the 1v1, but can't take it at the end of the day, and even burn the teleport for it. So not great for Dragoon. Lee Sin was there, not even needed, though. Very nicely played by Pancake Lord.
Great denial of the redirect with the ultimate that would have come through from the Face Breaker. Just fantastic. If that hits him, not only is it the extra damage, but it's another brittle proc, which I think would have been enough to at least put him in range for a Q kill.
Oh, actually, here we go. Bottom lane. This is going to be Miasma landing. Jurassic is going to take a bunch for the points and the Ignite. Meech picks that one up. That Cassiopeia is starting to pop off.
That it is. And again, that early advantage gained by Jurassic and Chime was punished eventually, but it's starting to come back into their favor now, especially when Chime is out of lane. If Jurassic's in the lane alone, he has to be very fearful for the Leona engage, especially with Cassiopeia's single target damage being as high as it is. You saw that right there. If Jurassic gets hit, doesn't have flash, doesn't have heal, can't get away whatsoever, has no chance of surviving that pure engage. Got to play a little further back for your Jurassic.
And that might actually pay off here for Issue is Critical. They do start setting up this early Drake. It's going to be the ward taken from Sweetology, getting a little bit of vision down. They do see Odd Orange as well. No, this is a safe take. Have the Cassiopeia, so an early Ocean Drake for Issue is Critical. Very, very solid just to keep them in lane, help them with the scaling.
It should help them quite a bit. Again, especially the Ornn likes that, because if any of these extended trades go poorly in his or in the favor of the set, you can kind of sit back a little further, use your Corrupting Potion and this Ocean Drake to get back up and heal all the damage that would have come through. And then, of course, again, there's no real kill pressure in the mid lane. You're winning the bottom lane and the jungle matchups right now, so this Ocean Drake only going to push that even further.
Yeah, so far, so good. It's actually Sweetology. He goes for the Hex Flash play here, all the way back on the Jurassic, and might have bitten off a little bit more than he could chew, though. Gets hooked back in. Chime is going to try and turn the damage down. This is going to be the stun miss, though, but Meech is trying to chase down. Chime is going to finish off the kill there, but it is actually not traded back, and now Meech all by himself. He's taking the minion wave. He's trying to deal with the thresh damage as well. Finally has some healing coming through, but he is going to get hooked up. Jurassic trying to walk back in, but he does go down. Trade of kills, but the shutdown is going to go over to Jurassic.
Yeah, good little 2v2 right there. Again, the engagement came out from...
Here we go, Face Breaker all the way in the back. Pancake Lord trying to take the damage. True damage component comes through, but here comes the Ornn Horn. Flash away from Pancake Lord, trying to get himself to safety here. Not sitting on the damage quite yet, but that will be it. Hyper takes it with the collateral damage, and now Odd Orange very low. Flash forward. Hyper max range auto attack. He is able to finish that one off. What looked like a bad trade ended up going in Issue is Critical's favor.
Just a really good combination right there. And the other thing is, like, the fight got extended long enough for Odd Orange to maybe be able to respond to that, but it seemed like there was a disconnect between Pancake Lord and Odd Orange in that it was like Odd Orange waited to try to engage into that fight. I don't know if he was just too far back or whether it actually happened, but Pancake Lord died before the engagement from Odd Orange comes in and could have been able to maybe deny or at least force all of those tools that you saw used on both of them into one target to get only one kill. But that red buff slowing down the set, making sure he can't get away, no mobility in that kit, especially once that showstopper is gone. Really, really rough for set. And shutdown also going the way of Graves. Hyper super fed in this one.
Oh, Hex Flash, Sweetology now. These teams will not stop fighting as they're on a Jurassic. Looks like he will be able to take the Lantern to safety if he needs it. But yeah, very, very nicely played on the top side of the map, and a little bit of a disconnect is actually, here we go, Solar Flare, trying to go all the way back in, and that will be the easy kill taken. Meech is going to pick that one up, and now Chime pops the box, but a little bit too late. He'll be forced to walk away. Odd Orange is on the bottom side to maybe help catch the wave or deny the push in, but Issue is Critical. So far, they've had the run of this early game.
Yeah, done a phenomenal job of finding engagements onto this this Kaisa. Pretty much no matter the situation, it's really difficult. Again, Thresh has plenty of disengage tools, but you can't use all of them over and over and over again, especially with that ultimate, because it doesn't deny all that much in terms of just spacing that the Leona was able to get with that solar flare there. And not to mention, all that single target damage from the Cassiopeia is impossible to deal with if you're CC'd. And so Chime can't really trade. The best he can do is try to get a push off the other direction. Now maybe engagement in the bot side.
Yeah, looks like this is going to be the teleport and the Lee Sin coming down here. Pie Lord has showed up, but they're trying to turn around on Jurassic instead. Damage coming through, but this is going to be Meech trying to take the kill here. He's actually going to get it. I don't think he's going to be able to get away. He's going to get pile drivered underneath the tower. Shutdown taken for Pie Lord. But that's still a 1-for-1 trade. You burn the teleport, you brought the jungler down, and that's going to be plates falling in every other lane.
Yeah, not to mention, yeah, Hyper was in that mid lane, as you said, getting plates off of that mid tower, getting him more and more gold. The Zillion still around as well to make sure that he can rotate and isn't really in a punishable state by Chime, Odd Orange, and Strumpus here as they rotate back towards the mid lane.
Yeah, it's actually in a little bit of a bad spot here. Hyper actually tries to take the trade underneath the tower. Might have gone a little bit too far, but will get the ultimate at the end of the day, trying to get the escape here. Actually almost takes the kill onto Chime. Feeling himself maybe a little bit too much as they overextend for the plates, but still does quite a bit. As actually here comes the redirect. The Orn Horn is going to miss. Chime gets out of that one very safely, but the pressure from IIC is unrelenting here.
That's correct. You actually see TP down to try to punish Pie Lord here. They bring in Zillion from the back.
Yeah, command attack is in, looking for the double bomb. They are going to get it. Sweetology trying to stun him up, and there's really no good punch ever for Pie Lord to make there. Meech gets that one gifted to him, and this should be the push in here now for Issues Critical.
Yeah, really, really tough start to the game here from the side of Supernova. They did a good job drafting. I think, again, you talked about the scaling that they've got potentially. Haven't been able to get Strumpus really involved. The engagement continues to drop onto Jurassic, and he has basically no opportunities to fight back in most of these small skirmishes. And Hyper continues outside of that one dive under the tower, which was very, very curious in my mind, taking that engagement underneath there. He's just been absolutely phenomenal so far. And as the game continues, I mean, you're talking Kaisa's on Manamune, as opposed to the Archangel staff completed here for the Cassiopeia. So a lot more power in this Cassiopeia at the moment.
Yeah, big power spike there for the bot laner. As actually, Rift Herald is going to be summoned up here in the mid lane. Not in a great spot, but should still be able to get the charge off and secure first Tower Blood, unless Strumpus can stall a little bit longer. Gravity Field was used, and Shelly is actually going to go down before she gets the charge off. So that is just a wasted cooldown here. As here we go, skirmishing around the Baron. Actually, 2-man stun there. I'm going to try and go for a lot of orange, but he's going to be able to dash himself to safety. Pie Lord is in, but he's trying to get the damage down. As Meech is on the backside here, he will be able to take the kill before he gets stunned up. So one flare does not get a stun on anybody, but the big slow. Chime is forced to flash away now. Issue is critical. Pick a great fight, and this is going to give them the drain.
Yeah, they force everybody over there to try to respond to that mid play, especially because the dragon is now on the map and there's no Rift Herald on the map from the usage in the mid lane. And once that all happens, again, clustered fights really, really heavily favor the side of Issue is critical. They have the Leona, they have the Cassiopeia, they have all the AoE-CC.
Oh, speaking of which, Hyper, he gets kicked, but actually the Sonic Wave is going to miss. Hyper's going to finish that one off. The flash comes through that from command attack to keep Hyper alive. He will burn down and get that big heal as he comes back out of the revive. Chime now looking for another hook. Will pull command attack underneath the tower. Might actually be able to take him. No, he barely gets out of the tower range. And now actually Chime takes a double bomb for his efforts. He will go down. This is looking like Sweetology is in a bad spot, though. He should be the return kill. Strumpus does pick that one up. Hyper has to walk his way out underneath the tower. As we don't stop fighting in this league at all, as here we go. Top lane, Jurassic forced to flash away. Does have the Nimbus Cloak, should get himself to safety, but summoner spells across the map getting blown in these extended trades.
Pretty crazy to think that that's the case. Again, Jurassic comes up here to try to find some farm for himself because it's just not working when he's on the bottom side of the map to be able to get that farm against the Cassiopeia. But now you see this Cassiopeia is now bullying plenty of other people. You got Chime getting run down, you got Strumpus getting run down, Odd Orange getting run down, and the combination of Hyper and Cassiopeia right now, with all the CC coming through from the Zillion, the Leona, it's just impossible to duel against this team. The skirmishing power is way too high with how powerful these champions are at the moment.
Yeah, and I think a big reason you can look at the success is how far ahead they already got. That's a 7-2 Cassiopeia for Meech. So any fight she's in, if she's not getting crowd control immediately, just going to do so much damage with the crowd control that the rest of the team can bring. So Issue's critical, looking to be in a really good spot, but they will lose the tower here. Pie-Cake Lord finishing that one off. And actually, that's first tower blood for Supernova. So they do have one way back in this game, and I think it is Pie-Cake Lord.
Again, yeah, playing that more split push oriented set might be a way to go. Of course, and this one actually goes for the Black Cleaver, which implies he's going to go for more of a team fight oriented build, which I'm not sure is the case in this. As you said earlier, CC is the name of the game when you're talking about the Graves and the Cassiopeia, but what do you actually do to CC them? Because you don't have much. This could be a fight. Yeah,
Chime is going to get hit by the Zenith Blade, but does time the Blade perfectly. Now going to hook Sweetology back in, but a very, very tanky Leona, and now a great combo. Neuraxis on the backside here, Drastic taking a bunch of damage, but actually gets sniped out from the side by the ultimate from Hyper. Hyper trying to finish off the kill. He gets the double, and he's going to survive just barely. Pie-Cake Lord does flash in. Strompus actually is the one who takes that. Chime looking for the fancy footwork, but there's nowhere you can get out of the way of that auto attack, and does go down. So at the end of the day, that is going to be a 3-for-1 trade. IIC still staying ahead of things.
And that they are just able to find a lot of these good engagements off the back of extended fights where there's CC that comes through. That time, again, Leona was what was, bogging down Jurassic, Chime, and Odd Orange's escape there. And he had Hyper behind him, and that was it. But then the flank from Dragoon in this case, all the CC being able to knock them around as much as they want. Hyper doing anything he wants in these fights. Literally, I think he's positioning just to secure kills, and then he's just kind of improvising from that point on. And somehow he's walking out of these fights with like 2-3 kills every single time, which is crazy. Pie-Cake Lord.
Feeling himself, had the tackle to get him out from underneath the tower, but Dragoon, I don't think there's anywhere he can go. This is going to be the knuckle down, trying to chase the Ornn out of the way, but trying to make the alcove play. Does dodge on the back. He's actually arrived. Dragoon's going to get out to such a bad spot. Very unfortunate if you're Pie-Cake Lord. Should have been easy, but the stopwatch saves the day.
You gotta love the alcoves too. Just runs directly up to the alcove, can't walk around one side, otherwise the Ornn walks around the other direction and buys more than enough space for that to happen. Now also Rift Herald priority comes through because of the back from Pie-Cake Lord. He has his TP readily available for a fight if that comes through, but I don't know that they want to contest this again. They have way too much control of all of this zone, especially the jungle entrance with a combination of Sweetology and command attack here with the Zilean and the Leona. I don't think they want to fight into this little corridor here.
Supernova do want to fight as here comes Pie-Cake Lord. He's looking for the fight, but he doesn't have the showstopper quite yet. Forced to take the Lantern to safety now. The Herald has not reset, though. Hyper going to walk back in. He is 2 levels up on Blood Orange. Sorry, Odd Orange. As actually here goes the huge Petrifying Gaze is going to take the triple kill immediately here for the Zilean. Meech is going to get pulled back in, but this should be another kill picked up for him. Sweetology now on the backside. Pops stopwatch to stall for a little bit more time, not go down. Oh my goodness, Meech. That was amazing.
Yeah, if you would have told me at the beginning of the game that we were going to see the Wombo combo between Zilean and Cassiopeia, I would have been like, what Wombo combo? But now I understand. That was unreal damage. Super fed Meech here on this Cassiopeia gets a huge flash ultimate into, I believe it was 3 members, and then the double bomb on top was more than enough damage to compete, to the point where I don't think Hyper actually contributed for the most part for most of those kills, which is crazy because he's also insanely fed. Not to mention, they get the Rift Herald, able to push down this mid tower, able to get a lot of gold back, and they're now just in complete control of the game. Is the side of Issue is control.
Yeah, Issue is hugely ahead so far. They do have the 5,000 gold lead. They're up 2 towers to none and 2 drakes to none. And just looking to be in such good control of this game. And Supernova, I think, absolutely have to try and slow this game down. Give the Kaisa and the Victor time to get to those item spikes.
Yeah, Victor's actually getting very close to a point where he can potentially contest. Actually, nice little Drake there to be able to stall out the timing on that Soul. Thankfully, should help give some of that time to the Victor and the Cassiopeia, or the Kaisa. The Kaisa's really slow right now. I actually really don't think that the Mana Immune into the Rage Blade is as powerful a build as it was back when we saw Kaisa pretty much every single week. And ridiculously meta. I don't think it's just as strong as it was before, so you have to go for something a little more aggressive in like the Storm Razor, but didn't have the gold for that this game, so it would have been even slower. Victor, on the other hand, is in a place where he can actually start contributing to these fights. Has the completed Hex Core, not to mention the needlessly large rod and the Sork shoes. So Strompus is really where your damage has to start coming from. Pie-Cake Lord also has quite a bit with this Black Cleaver as well. He should be able to provide quite a bit to fights if he can find a proper engagement.
Yeah, looking for one of these two to make the play happen as Hyper does get hooked in, but not really the member you want. And now actually they do have the slow from the GLP. The kick is going to be forced out of Odd Orange in order to make sure he can't get engaged upon. Short cooldown, but Issue is critical. They are not hesitant at all to force these issues.
The big issue is it's all game. It has felt so much like the only person that was able to walk forward at any point and get an aggressive engagement has been Shime. Anybody else, Odd Orange, Pie Cake Lord, anytime they get aggressive, it just ends up turning and backfiring into their face because Hyper, Command Attack, or the Cassiopeia here and Meech, all of them were able to turn fights so well, and eventually got to the point where even the bot lane was getting there where you couldn't get aggressive with Chime either. So now all these cool, interactive, aggressive like usage, like you're talking like the showstopper, the kick that we just saw, the dragon kick, they're tools that you could use to make aggressive plays, but you have to use them defensively half the time because there's just such good engagement coming through from the side of Issue is Control.
Yeah, really trying to set up the plays here. Is actually, here we go. Command Attack is going to get caught out. Does not have, she does have the flash. Is going to try and get himself to safety here. Pops the ultimate on himself as Hyper is coming up to try and save his mid laner. This is going to be dashing forward, actually takes the hook, and now he's looking for this. He wants to force the issue here. Horn comes out. Odd Orange looking for the outplay here, but there's no way you can outplay an auto attack. And now Drask on the backside. There's nowhere he can go. Overextended for sure. Tackle does come through, and Hyper goes down. Got maybe a little bit aggressive there, but the rest of the team was able to clean up 2 for 1 at the end of the day.
That they were. And the Baron buff is up. You have a Cassiopeia that has plenty of damage to work with here, so you might just start this one up and see what you could do. Not going to do that one. Just a little afraid of the team fight damage coming from Victor. Actually, they ward around the pit. They know that there's nobody here to contest it, so they are going to look for it. No smite available. Odd Orange is dead for a while still.
Hyper's dead as well, so maybe looking for a potential steal from somebody else as Pie Kick Lord is going to get spotted out. Swidology going to try and stop Strumpist as they actually try to go in on him. Damage starts coming through, but the Lantern gets him to safety. Chime very nicely done, and at the end of the day, Issue is critical. Can't force the Baron Issue, but they do get some damage down, a little bit more priority to back off.
Yeah, I would imagine that was really good communication from Chime. He drops the ward over the pit to know that they weren't really highly committed to the Baron, and then immediately is able to communicate that to his, I believe it was Pie Cake Lord there, to be able to lantern him out before he gets destroyed. It might have been Strumpus in that case, my apologies, but the person on that bottom side had the communication to him, gets the lantern to come out, not going to get punished for that, because they knew they couldn't commit fully to that Baron. It was going to take too long. Odd Orange was going to be back to potentially steal a smite. There's still the showstopper coming through from the set that could have kind of dissuaded all of that from happening.
Yeah, lots of potential to stop that play from happening, but this is going to be Issues critical coming back down towards the Baron pit, setting it up, clearing out the enemy vision. And this is definitely where they want to be playing around. Getting this objective is going to be hugely important for them in order to keep going for this quick close before the scaling comes through. Strumpus now trying to check, gets slowed up a little bit. Swidology, this is a really difficult front line to get through. 3-man stun actually from Command Attack. Swidology is going to be forced to get the Chrono Shift as here comes the Miasma, and that's going to be an easy Baron take here for Issues critical.
Yeah, biggest problem there. Oh, they actually continued ultimates, continuing to jump through. I don't think they're actually going to net anything. But the thing is that when you have the Zillion and the Leon on the outside of the pit, you're not losing any DPS by having them out there, but all that CC is a great zone and cool, and you saw right there, they were able to stop the entire approach from Supernova with just the double bomb from Zillion getting that massive stun. Not to mention, the damage that went down on the Jurassic was huge, so that even if you do get engagement, do get close enough to contest the Baron, you can't take that fight because you lose because your damage dealer is almost dead at the start anyway. So really, really nice job having Hyper and Meech take that one pretty much on their own.
Yeah, now you do look at the minimap here a little bit. You have a lot of members topside. Pie Cake Lord all by himself does have the tackle to maybe get himself to safety, forced to flash away at the end of the day. But Drake is spawning, and there are 3 members of Supernova up towards this top side of the map. They have found a pick, though. Teleport is going to come through as well, but I don't think they even need it. A kick is actually going to go through. Meech flashing back into the bad spot, but he's actually going to be able to take the kill. He does get 2. Shuts down Strumpist and Shime. The rest of his team is still pushing this mid lane issue here. Oh my goodness, that Cassiopeia. Too much damage to deal with, and that play that Supernova were attempting to make backfire huge.
Yeah, they literally TP'd in Strumpist for that play, which is shocking to me. They committed 4 members in the multiple ultimates, a couple of summoner spells, just to try to take down the Cassiopeia. What's even crazier is that Meech was in a rough situation, was trying to work his way up into the jungle, then just opts for, hey, let's just fight it out. Flashes back on top of Chime and gets 2 kills for himself in that fight. Also lets his team push down that mid tower. I believe the mid inhibitor tower went down. No base broken quite yet. But the ability to go for this dragon now sets up the soul when that comes through. Second Baron going to be a massive tool to use. Probably going to be the close of the game.
Yeah, Issue is critical just in so much command and control of this game. And I think even last game as well, it took them a lot longer to get to this point. They really had some issues getting the team fights they wanted, getting the scaling underway. But this time around, I don't think there's been a moment of this game where Supernova has been in control.
Yeah, not even a little bit. Again, maybe the first few minutes when Chime was able to get a couple of those early trades onto the Cassiopeia and get those nice hooks on. But outside of that, you're right. I haven't seen a moment, especially Jurassic got put behind very, very heavily early, hasn't been able to come back quite, like pretty much at all. And just the consistent force of damage coming through Cassiopeia, the Graves, even the Zillion at this point is doing ridiculous damage with this GLP build. I mean, it just, at some point you have to wonder. Like I said, at this moment, Supernova needs to just wait and try to get this Kaiser to a fighting chance. And then look, to take pure 5-on-5s. They haven't really had a great 5-on-5 fight where you can utilize the Dragon Kick best, you can utilize the Showstopper best to let this Victor, let this Kaiser work their way into a fight. They haven't had that. It's been mostly pickoffs, mostly skirmishes that have really gone the way of IIC. So maybe they need to try to set up for this pure 5-on-5.
Oh, it's actually kicked back here on a command attack, but not really the person you want, as the bombs are going to slow out the fight. Actually, Meech does take that, and now Dragoon, he's on the side. This is going to be the Showstopper taking him out. Big damage comes through, and that's going to be the last second chrono shift, though, to keep the mid laner alive. Jurassic goes on the backside here. He does pick up the one kill. Very, very split fight here as the Orange continues to try and go through. Does get the double knock up. Hyper, though, trying to walk through the gravity field right into the hook. He's going to take a bunch of damage, but 2 flashes forced out of the Supernova members. Jurassic, he is not long for this world. One more Twin Fang is going to take him down. This is going to be Issue is critical, taking 3 kills for just the 1 support kill they traded back. Now Stromp is getting engaged on under the tower. Dragoon very tanky, but they can't quite finish it off. But this should be base broken easily. Maybe even an inhibitor going down if they're feeling spicy.
They are, yeah, absolutely able to. Odd Orange doesn't have the flash, just have the Dragon Kick when readily available, but no real damage left on Strumpus. Has to go back and get mana as well to try to prevent this one. So yeah, the inhibitor going down. Nice fight from the side of IIC. Once again, they're spread out all over the place. Can't really get a cohesive workaround for this unit. It starts with Odd Orange looking for a kick, can't get enough burst damage, doesn't have the damage to kill command attack. Then there's no follow-up for the rest of the team. Pie Lord gets caught out, and then the rest of the fight just kind of ensues afterwards, which ended up in 3 people going down. Now, Chime and Strumpus actually did a really good job kiting backwards and trying to do damage, but they just don't have enough to sustain the damage coming through from the combination of command attack, Hyper, and then I think it was actually Swideology in that particular fight. And then it's also somehow, I don't know how it happened, but Jurassic got run down by Cassiopeia on that right side as well.
Yeah, for someone who can't buy boots, Cassiopeia very, very fast will run you down the second she lands that first noxious blast. So Jurassic not having a great time in this game. 2-8 does finally have the Muramana completed, but the base has been broken. And with Baron coming up before too long in the Drake, the potential soul on the table as well here for Issue is critical. They're in such a good spot to be able to claim one of those major objectives and finish out the game. Supernova, is there any way back for them at this point?
Like I said, I really think they have to be the first one to an objective. I don't think they can be the second one to an objective. The reason why is because to set up a team fight around that requires... it requires them to get into a fight that they can't take. Hyper can burst out Odd Orange if he's the first one in. They can burst out Pie Lord or force out the backline to back up if Pie Lord is the first one in. They have to be the first on the objective. They have to be around the Baron. They have to be around the Dragon. Then they have to turn all at once to take a fight. Otherwise, they just won't have the ability. They're going to be too layered. They're going to be too stacked apart. They have to just focus as a unit. They kind of have to hive mind this and do as best they can to get around an objective, get all the pressure they need instead of being pushed off of it like what's going to happen right here. This is really risky. Again, you're not going to find a pure 5-on-5. You don't have a chance of winning anything like this. They might just have to give second Baron because honestly, I don't think fighting this is going to be anything good for their composition.
No, very, very difficult proposition here. Baron is on the table now. Funny to watch both these teams attempt the Fnatic brush gank on each other, but neither one really had the opportunity as now the vision's getting cleared out. But the Baron has actually already been started. Same exact plan of attack here for Issue is critical with the Leona and the Zillion. Actually, Zillion, though, gets tanked very low. This is going to be the hook over the wall for Chime if he wants to try and go for a Lantern play, but Supernova might have forced them off as actually here comes the Oran Horn looking for the re-engage. They are going to be the frontline Hyper. Oh my god, Jurassic is dead. Strumpus is down, and that is a huge double knockup. 2 members are going to be taken down. The Showstopper from Pie Lord tries to get him to safety, but he has nowhere to go. Odd Orange actually is out. He's done. Triple kill picked up for a Hyper, and this has to be the game. There's no way it can't be. Issue is critical. They take the fight. They finish it off, and this is going to be a very, very quick 2-0 for them over their rival.
That is a little bit surprising to see. Actually, I expected a really competitive series. Game 1 was really good. They came out with that super creative draft. Game 2 was just really dominant. I got to give a lot of that credit to Hyper, too. He was a beast in this game. Meech also in the second game, he was massive on this Cassiopeia. That last fight, again, got split up. No engagement coming through from Pike Lord early on. Orange still had his ultimate up at the end of the fight, so didn't find an opportunity to use either of those engage tools at any point in the game. Just got run over, never even saw a glimpse at victory.
Yeah, really, really rough situation for Supernova. Never really found their footing in that game. Didn't have the opportunity past the level 1. That cheeky hook that landed, the couple of auto attacks. You get Meech to skill the wrong ability here first because he thinks he's about to die instead. And it looked so good. It looked like Supernova were saying, yeah, we're going to come out. We're going to be able to take this game. But then just Hyper turned it on. And this time around, he didn't need the scaling. He didn't need the farming. He was just saying, I'm just going to be everywhere all at once and take these fights. And very, very nicely executed. And I think Supernova as well, if you want to talk about Pike Lord, after your bot lane falls behind, after your mid laner isn't really doing that much for you, maybe the set's your carry, but went for the more supportive build instead.
Yeah, went for at least the team fight build. And again, that's why I wanted to see the pure 5-on-5 engagement. They never found it one time. For a composition that has like a Graves, a Cassiopeia, if you get a solid engagement into the team, a Victor can really shred through a lot of. There is no defensive itemization for Cass. There's no defensive itemization for the Graves here. If you get Strumpus into these situations with the Rabadons and the completed Hex Core, he has the damage to wipe them. In fact, actually, I think he was the highest damage dealer in the game, if I saw that correctly. Yeah, he had more damage than either the Cassiopeia or the Graves through this whole thing. He could never kill anybody. There was never a setup to deny the Zilean from reviving whoever it is they were chasing, or a lot of his damage was going into the Leona and the Ornn when they jump onto the front line. That's the problem that we saw in that game.
Yeah, the no-go zones, that Issues Critical's comp was able to make, the Zillion bombs, the Leona just walking at you, the Miasma. It's really hard for that Victor to just walk up and get the damage down in those fights. So once you burst the target, they don't die because of the Zillion, and then there's nowhere else for the Victor to get into the fight except hang out and wait for the Graves to flash on you and kill you in a couple auto attacks. So difficult situation for Supernova and a really, really tough loss. Issues Critical, though, looking to be in a great spot. They executed well as a team. And I got to ask you before we close out the stream here, if you had to pick an MVP, who are you going with this game?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Okay, my first MVP is the Blue Essence Bank of Command Attack because they got the Soraka in that first game, so that was really good. But Hyper, I mean, it's hard to not give Hyper the victory. I mean, game 1, they basically put the entire game on his shoulders, and the man delivered. He delivered in spades in that first game on that Olaf, just doing all the damage, running down anybody you wanted to. It's very, very tough to find a jungler who is capable of doing that, and Hyper is. That game 2 wasn't as necessary because Meech was killing it in the bot lane. Nonetheless, top side of the map, every fight, he's always in the middle of 3 people and somehow coming out ahead of everybody. Just 2 kills for 1 death, 3 kills for 1 death, finding just random kills everywhere across the map. Hyper was insane in this series.
I definitely have to agree on that. Hyper for MVP in this series. And that is going to be it for us on the desk tonight, everyone. Thank you all so very much for watching. We will be back on Thursday with our Upsurge minor league game of Barrel Esports versus Eclipse Esports at 8 p.m. EST. So make sure you guys do tune in for that. For myself, Hellmite, Rebel Fox on the cast, and Hypertension, our lovely producer. Thank you all so very much for watching. Oh, then make sure you guys go tune in over onto our other stream. We do have the 100 Thieves next game playing on right now. So stick around. Make sure you're around for that. We will be back tomorrow or Thursday.